The day the divine beast Ignis hatched, I strangled it with my own hands, then turned to forge a contract with a dying creature instead. My mother threw a suicidal tantrum. "If you don't bring back another divine beast egg, I'll kill myself," I replied with icy detachment, "then die." All because in my past life, to become the divine maiden protecting our clan, I scaled Mount Kwaiji's slopes littered with razor-sharp bones to retrieve that egg. Nourishing it day and night with my own flesh and blood, on the day the dragon egg hatched, the divine beast Ignis unexpectedly crawled straight to Vesper, my mother's adopted daughter, and chose her as its master. As she ascended as the new divine maiden, the entire clan erupted in joyous celebration, yet I was cast into Mount Kwaiji by Ignis, where frenzied mythical beasts tore me apart and devoured me, even in death. I never understood why. I personally handled every step from retrieving the dragon egg to its hatching. Why would Ignis willingly choose her as its master? When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day of the divine maiden's selection. Sister, didn't the divine beast Ignis require 49 days of blood and flesh nourishment to hatch? How did it emerge before the full term? Seeing my adopted sister's peeking face, I finally realized I had truly been reborn. Mother came rushing after her and immediately started interrogating. "Did you fail to safeguard the divine beast egg? I knew you couldn't be trusted with important matters." I shook my head. "No, I was the one who broke the Ignis egg." Under their stunned gazes, I plunged my hand into the dragon egg. Through the slimy, viscous fluid, I snapped Ignis' neck with my bare hands. My adopted sister screamed while my mother roared with bulging eyes. "That's a divine beast egg you've nourished with your flesh and blood for a month. Ivy, have you lost your mind? The covenant day is in 20 days. How could you abandon our entire clan?" 1. She did the same in my past life, using the clan's safety to force me up Mount Kwaiji. Just as mortals don't know the true nature of divine beasts, not docile and kind, but savage and cruel, the real Mount Kwaiji was no divine peak, but rather a mountain forged from jagged heaps of bleached bones. I nearly wore my hands and feet to the bone climbing to the summit to retrieve the Ignis egg, also it could hatch properly. Day after day, I followed ancient rites, carving flesh and spilling blood, retrieved the spirit flowers from the cliff again to brew the nourishing elixir. In the end, I stood on the covenant altar like a living skeleton, brimming with joy, just waiting for the Ignis in my arms to hatch from its shell. Then I shall become the divine maiden of the Shanghai tribe. Earning mother and our people's recognition, little did I expect the egg to shatter at that very moment. Ignis emerged and devoured my limbs, yet prostrated itself at Vesper's feet in submission. The entire clan erupted in tearful cheers. Vesper actually tamed Ignis. She must be our divine oracle. Vesper's eyes welled up with tears. I thought the dragon egg stolen by my sister would reject me, but thankfully we still share a spiritual bond. The clansmen immediately burned with righteous indignation. No wonder Ivy kept herself locked away day and night. She was afraid her dirty secret would be exposed. How shameless of Ivy to steal the dragon egg the oracle risked her life to retrieve. Such scum deserves banishment from our Mountain Sea tribe. Merely banishing her is too lenient. She deserves to burn alive to appease Lady Vesper. Mother raised her scepter and struck my back with such force that I coughed up blood. "A thief like you dares aspire to become the divine maiden of the Mountain Sea clan. Preposterous. Guards, throw her into the dungeons." Vesper interjected. "Don't fret, mother. Ignis utterly despises such treacherous scum. Let it deal with sister." Thus did the Ignis I'd nourished with my own flesh tear my limbs asunder and cast me upon Mount Kwaiji. My desperate screams echoed as I was rent to pieces, to my dying breath. I never understood. Why did I climb Mount Kwaiji to nurture Ignis with my own flesh and blood? From its growth to hatching, I carried it with me like a treasured possession, yet in the end, it chose Vesper as its master, not by contract, but willing servitude. Even now, mother still glares at me with venom. "If Ignis is dead, you must climb Mount Kwaiji again and retrieve a divine beast egg. Otherwise, if the offspring can't even protect our kin, I'd rather die." I glared at her coldly. "Then go ahead and die. A second chance at life. This time, I'm letting Ignis go. I don't need that motherly love I once craved anymore. I just want to know why the divine beast I raised with my heart and soul chose Vesper as its master, and then, send them all to hell." Ignis requires the flesh and blood of the Shanghai tribe to hatch, with increasing amounts needed in later stages. I sighed as I looked at my body covered in wounds. Fortunately, it's only been a month this time. My body will recover with some rest. Mother dared not cast me out, for I still possess talents unmatched among my peers. Vesper took her time, whispering to every clans member she met, sisters just momentarily overcome with anger, unwilling to sacrifice flesh and blood for the clan, but with her noble heart, she'd never truly abandon her people. Soon, the whole clan buzzed with tales of my supposed incompetence. They call me a coward who clings to life. Gifted yet useless, I didn't argue when their insults peaked. I slipped away for days and returned with some random egg from Mount Kwaiji's foothills. Vesper couldn't sit still any longer and came straight to my door. Sister, a divine maiden of our Shanghai tribe must bond with the mightiest mythical beast. Only then is she worthy of the title. Bringing home such a mediocre egg. Are you trying to make our clan the laughingstock of the realm? She always did this, with just a few words. She'd nail me to the pillar of shame. I sneered at her. Since elder sister is so useless and younger sister so formidable, why don't you try scaling Mount Kwaiji yourself? But then mother rushed out and slapped me across the face. You heartless bastard, how could you make your frail sister climb Mount Kwaiji? Are you trying to kill her? The same Mount Kwaiji I could climb freely, yet my adopted sister was forbidden, just as I couldn't understand how my adopted sister tamed my divine beast. Nor could I fathom why mother's favoritism ran so deep. I couldn't help but ask, Mother, am I really your own flesh and blood? Mother froze for a second before sneering. If you hadn't strangled Ignis, things would never have come to this. After all my years raising you, I wish to heaven you were some bastard spawn. True enough, in my past life, before the divine beast Ignis hatched, I too was deceived by her pretended kindness. I naively thought her strictness was because I was the eldest daughter. If I just make a contract with Ignis and become the priestess, I'll earn her approval, but I was wrong. Realizing this wasn't working, Vesper forcibly took the egg from my arms. Just leave this useless little creature for me to raise. Sister, you'd better hurry back to Mount Kwaiji to find another divine beast egg, lest our clan face heaven's wrath without a priestess. My mother's eyes gleamed cunningly as she said, Indeed, such a worthless egg should be your sister's responsibility. I know you've always thought I play favorites, dear, but isn't it because you're exceptionally capable while your sister's still so young? She threw a conspicuously affectionate arm around my shoulders. I know you're afraid your sister will take yours, but remember, each Shanghai clansman can only bond with one mythical beast. Now that your sister has her own beast egg, you can relax, right, watching their back-and-forth exchange. A sudden curiosity came over me. Is it some inexplicable bond between Vesper and me that makes the eggs I hatch imprint on her, while hers imprint on me? Well now, this just got interesting. My heart ached with a stabbing pain, yet I burst out laughing. A plan has taken clear shape. In this life, I no longer care for the lofty ideals I once preached. All I want is an eye for an eye, to trample those who killed me straight into hell. Mother still urged me to climb Mount Kwaiji. What's a few bones piercing your flesh? With your abilities, the wounds would heal in no time. What's a little pain? Climbing Mount Kwaiji is for the sake of our whole clan. Ivy, you need to be sensible. Facing her hypocritical lecturing, I merely curled my lips and nodded. Just Mount Kwaiji? I'll climb it then. I'll definitely bring back the most powerful mythical beast egg. Mother's eyes lit up. If you can obtain the divine beast egg contract, your mother will finally rest easy, at peace now. I'll prepare an extraordinary surprise for you all. At Mount Kwaiji's peak, colossal thunderbolts crashed down amidst a rain of blood. I dodged the beast's attack once again, finally cradling a pitch-black egg in my arms, tumbled down from Mount Kwaiji. When I came to, my mother sat at a distance and sneered upon seeing me awake, even for a divine beast egg. This is downright hideous, but since you're awake now, hurry up and hatch. Too weak to even speak, I was yanked upright by her brute force. She herded me to stand guard by the divine beast egg. Vesper smiled warmly. Big sister's truly remarkable. You'll definitely become our tribe's divine maiden. I asked, how's that egg I left with you doing? She shrugged. I checked it. Probably just some nameless little creature. It'll hatch on its own. No need to fuss. Her gaze drifted to my wounds, and she smiled slowly. Climbing Mount Kwaiji must have been tough, sis. Nearly cost you your life. But mother says you've got father's blood, heals fast, no big deal, too. I glared at her with burning intensity. Her smile widened. What can I do? I'm just the adopted daughter mother brought home. I don't have your abilities, so I'm afraid sister will have to take the injuries this time. But look at it this way, though you're covered in scars, without mother's love or the clan's approval, at least you still have this divine beast egg, don't you? Vesper approached and ran her fingers over the obsidian-black divine beast egg several times, as if sensing her summons. A violent heartbeat echoed from within the eggshell. She curled her lips. This is everything you have, sister. You'd better cherish it. I do cherish it. In the days that followed, I would place the mythical beast's egg in the fire to roast it daily. Only when the entire shell turned crimson red would I remove it to cool. The mountain sea beast egg shares a psychic bond with its destined master before their pact is sealed, and so once more, I cast the divine egg into the fiery depths. When I saw Vesper drenched in sweat and gasping for air, I nearly burst out laughing. You idiot, are you trying to hard-boil a divine beast egg? My mother frantically pulled the egg from the stove and swung at me, but I dodged. What nonsense are you saying, mother? This divine beast egg carries the fire element. It could be a vermilion bird or a candle dragon for all we know. It requires intense heat to hatch. She glared at me furiously. Didn't the ancient method I gave you specify nourishment through flesh and blood? In my past life, I truly believed in the ancient method Mother provided, but after rebirth, I began to suspect it was all a lie. Every time in my past life when I nourished the divine beast egg with my flesh and blood, I'd see my foster sister Vesper the next day. She always appeared more radiant and full of vitality, while I, drained from carving my flesh and shedding blood, was left weak and listless. By the final selection day, I'd become little more than a walking skeleton, radiant with vitality. She now bore the same unique luminescence that only flowed through my father's bloodline, becoming the tribe's undisputed divine maiden. After rebirth, I secretly infiltrated the forbidden main pavilion my mother had always barred me from entering. Among my father's relics, I discovered those authentic fragments of ancient scriptures. They even contained meticulous records detailing the unique traits of various Shanghai beasts. It also documented this very egg I prepared for my sister, though I've no idea why our contracted spirit beasts got swapped. But since it's come to this, stroking the pitch-black spirit egg in my arms, I felt its rejection and impatiently tossed it back into the furnace. More silver charcoal was added this time, raising the temperature even higher. Vesper, my adopted sister who hadn't gone far, couldn't help but drop to her knees, turning back with a gaze full of resentment. Her skin was nearly blistering from the intense heat. I covered my mouth and averted my eyes. This is just the appetizer. When the divine maiden is chosen and this egg hatches, I'll watch as she endures the same torment I suffered. Cast straight into hell, news spread about Vesper, the clan leader's adopted daughter, being tortured beyond recognition while incubating the mythical beast egg. The rumors gradually circulated throughout the clan. The whole clan marveled, though Vesper is merely an adopted daughter without our late chieftain's bloodline. Her dedication to hatching the beast eggs makes her a true role model for us all. Many even drew comparisons between her and me. Unlike some who can't even handle this, just nourishing the divine beasts with their flesh and blood, she inherited the chieftain's extraordinary regenerative abilities, yet she's scared of a little pain. Enough, if it weren't for her gifts and talents, I wouldn't tolerate her icy demeanor, absolutely revolting. Vesper's truly the best. So affectionate and always thinking of us. I really wish Vesper could become the divine maiden. It was the same in my past life. I endured starvation and seclusion to incubate the Ignis egg, only venturing out when I couldn't hold on any longer, completely unaware of outside events. Vesper seized this moment to poison the clan's opinion against me. She claimed to have endured immense hardship retrieving the divine beast's egg, praying it would hatch successfully. To everyone she met, she recounted her suffering at Mount Kwaiji, moving clansmen to tears. Mother openly disparaged me at the clan assembly. They praised my exceptional talent, but said I was too arrogant. If only I could be half as humble as Vesper. Gradually, the clan grew to see me as proud and aloof, while Vesper was sweet and charming. So when Vesper falsely accused me of stealing the divine beast's egg, not a single soul stood by me. Given a second chance at life, I still believe they were merely blinded in our past existence. I want to give them another opportunity. So when Vesper dragged her battered body before the crowd, recounting the agony she endured to hatch that egg, I stepped forward before our tribe, resolved to expose her deceit. Vesper, you claimed the mythical egg you retrieved from Mount Kwaiji was pitch black. Why don't you show it to us now? Caught off guard, she turned pale and stammered. Divine beast eggs are sacred treasures. How could we treat them so carelessly? Really, because I distinctly remember being the one who climbed Mount Kwaiji, and the one who painstakingly incubated that divine egg. My eyes burned red as I screamed hoarsely, as if pleading justice for my past self. Vesper trembled speechlessly. A clansman suddenly strode over and slapped me across the face. This divine beast egg was brought down from Mount Kwaiji through Vesper's suffering, then nurtured day and night with her heart's blood. How could our Shanghai clan breed a venomous ten like you, slandering your own sister? Oh, I get it. You're just looking down on others because of your noble bloodline, aren't you? Having someone like you as our divine maiden would be our clan's greatest shame. The bystanders chimed in. Exactly. A murderer who'd even slaughter a sacred beast like Ignis doesn't deserve to stay in Mount C clan. If not for your talents, the chieftain would have executed you long ago. Vesper rolled her eyes and coaxed. Enough already. Big sister's already upset. What if she refuses to protect us all after becoming the goddess? Her words only fueled the clansmen's outrage, clamoring to denounce me before mother and drive me out. I sneered coldly. Very well then, I won't hold back. If Vesper enjoys playing the victim, I'll toss this divine beast egg into the lava to make her look even more pathetic. Yet the clan adores her so. Just wait till the divine beast egg hatches. They'll reap what they sow under their beloved Vesper's command. The selection day had finally arrived. Vesper stood by the Covenant altar at dawn, his gaze fixed on the obsidian divine beast egg in my arms with predatory certainty. A crisp cracking sound echoed as web-like fissures spread across the shell. The sacred Mount Quaiji, home to the Shanhai tribe, echoed with the thunderous roars of mythical beasts. The tribe's people gasped. What divine creature could stir such frenzy among all the sacred beasts of Quaiji? For Ivy to hatch such a legendary beast, she must be the chosen oracle. Vesper's eyes blazed with unrestrained ecstasy as he took an eager step toward me. I couldn't help but burst into roaring laughter, tears streaming freely down my face. She had no idea. This single step led straight into the bottomless abyss I'd prepared for her. The newly hatched divine beast was pitch black, wreathed in tendrils of mystic energy. True to Vesper's expectations, it crawled toward her feet trailing viscous fluid, then prostrated itself in reverence. Mother smiled with contentment, her gaze overflowing with tender affection. Meanwhile, Vesper, eyes reddened just as in her past life, began tearfully accusing me of fabricated crimes. Sister, I know you're resentful, but I risked my life climbing Mount Quaiji to retrieve this divine beast egg. How could you steal it? The clan erupted in uproar again. First Ivy tried to frame Vesper, and now after being exposed, she actually stole Vesper's egg. How could such a treacherous wretch become our oracle? She'll make our Shanhai tribe the laughingstock of the realm. I no longer attempt to explain anything to these people as I did in my past life. 3. Instead, I listened to their vile words with icy indifference. Vesper's sobs grew louder. Sister, if only the mythical beasts of Shanhai weren't bound to a single master for life, I'd gladly give this one to you. Please don't blame me. Mother's heart ached as she stepped down and embraced her, murmuring comforting words. It's not your fault. Blame your sister for being a coward who'd rather steal than sacrifice for our people. You've done nothing wrong. You'll always be the finest daughter in my heart. Their tight embrace made me look like a complete fool. The faint click echoed through the air once more, unnoticed by all. Yet the egg Vesper had brought hatched naturally without anyone's care. The hideously patterned shell cracked open, revealing a tiny Shanhai beast. As everyone hurled insults at me, Ying scampered to my feet and nuzzled against my trouser leg, its warm body pressed close against my skin, as if to remind me, even if the whole world turns against me, it remains by my side. With moist eyes, I bent down and gathered it into my arms, so when Mother raised her scepter to strike again, I dodged sideways. Mother knows perfectly well whether I stole those eggs or not, doesn't she? Mother paused, then turned to face the clan. Ivy has committed grave offenses yet remains unrepentant. What punishment would you deem appropriate? The clansmen knelt in furious protest. The chief's own daughter Ivy, gifted as she was, feared mere pain. After slaying the divine beast Ignis, she carelessly snatched an egg and abandoned our entire clan. Yet the adopted daughter Vesper endured hardships for us all, scaling Mount Quaiji to retrieve a sacred egg, laboring tirelessly to hatch it, only to have it stolen by the likes of Ivy. We plead to crown Vesper as our divine maiden and execute Ivy, that we may appease the vengeful spirit of Ignis. The crowd was seething with rage, yet I remained utterly unfazed. Vesper frowned slightly when she failed to see the reaction she'd hoped for. In the end, she actually pleaded with Mother. Sister merely had a momentary lapse in judgment. She's no true villain. Execution or exile would be far too cruel. Instead, to celebrate my covenant with the sacred beast in ascension as our tribe's oracle, let us pardon her here and now, confining her to the clan grounds. What say you? Mother smiled and agreed. You have a kind heart. We'll do as you say. The entire clan cheered. The divine maiden is merciful. I nearly burst out laughing. Now that the mythical beast's egg has hatched, calamity shall befall the Shanhai tribe. I sought death from the start. The little one in my arms made me determined to take it far away from all this, yet in the end, Vesper was the one who kept me here, but it also gave me a chance to witness their suffering firsthand. The days to come, confined to the attic, I carefully nurtured this little creature. Vesper would visit me periodically, cradling the divine beast in her arms, her overt concern masked thinly veiled sarcasm and relentless boasting. Yet as I gazed at the visibly weakened divine beast in her embrace, I sneered inwardly, brushing off her provocation with cold disdain. Eventually, Vesper grew bored and finally snapped, smashing my hand with a stone hammer. Damn you, Ivy, you're supposed to be a beaten dog in this state. Why do you still wear that haughty look? I couldn't be bothered to glance at her, gritting my teeth as I turned to feed the little beast. She gritted her teeth. You were born with the chief's bloodline while I was just an adopted daughter. That's why Father only trained you and ignored me completely, and you've always been this insufferably arrogant. It makes people want to tear you apart with their bare hands. I remained unmoved. Before his passing, Father taught me daily, as the future divine priestess, one must never let emotions show. That's how I developed my habit of keeping a straight face. Yet I remember every clan member's birthday and Vesper's preferences as clearly as Father does. I treated them with utmost kindness. The words never came easily to me, only to be misunderstood and end up in such a wretched state. This time, I'm throwing conscience to the wind too. Vesper rose with venom in her voice. Since you show such contempt, don't blame me for playing dirty. Shortly after she left, a horde of tribesmen stormed in, pointing at me and shouting, "The divine maiden came in kindness, yet you set your familiar on her to bite her finger." Such ingratitude! They dragged me before Mother to beg for forgiveness. From her high platform, Mother saw Vesper's tearful distress. How could she not understand the girl's intentions? She immediately ordered my banishment from the clan. Summoning all elders and tribespeople, she decreed my limbs be severed before exile from the Shanghai tribe. I held the small creature in my arms without a word, my gaze fixed on the divine beast beside Vesper, noticing my stare. Vesper arched an eyebrow and deliberately scooped up the mythical creature, but in the next instant, chaos erupted. The pitch-black beast sank its teeth into Vesper's hand and refused to let go. She screamed, yanking at it with her other hand while kicking wildly, but it was all in vain, until her entire arm was torn clean off. Crimson blood gushed forth. The divine beast chewed the entire arm with relish, swiftly swallowing it before its eyes gleamed with renewed hunger. The tribespeople stood frozen in terror. Mother was the first to react, ordering several burly tribesmen to restrain the creature. But Vesper had already lost an arm completely, trembling with manic despair. It was at this moment that I slowly walked toward her. The mythical beast Vesper requires copious amounts of flesh and blood to mature, with its contracted master's flesh being the most nourishing of all. Didn't my dear sister know this when she chose this beast's egg? My face betrayed unconcealed triumphant delight. Vesper finally snapped and screamed that she'd fight me to the death. "Ivy, you damn bitch. You did this on purpose." I shook my head. "This was the divine beast egg you climbed Mount Kwaiji to contract with your own hands. How is this my doing?" Mother ordered the servants to restrain her. "Stop Vesper's bleeding first, or she'll die." The look she gave me could flay me alive, yet I still pleaded for Vesper. Must it be the master's flesh? Isn't there another way? There isn't. I produced the ancient manuscript fragments, presenting them to the elders and clansmen. The divine beast Vespera descends from the Ho. Once matured, its celestial power will surely protect our people. The elders exchanged glances, then let Vesper replenish more. After all, we must consider the welfare of the entire clan. Vesper turned pale. "No, I won't do it, Mother." Mother's voice trembled. "When will Vespera come of age?" I presented the ancient rite. "The day she devours her contracted master." Naturally, without waiting for their response, he immediately knelt before the tribal elders. Ancient texts state that when the sacred beast Vespera devours its contracted master, it inherits their will and eternally guards our Shanghai tribe. Vesper cares so deeply for our people, surely it would willingly sacrifice itself. Thus shall our Shanghai tribe prosper for generations to come. Vesper stood thunderstruck, then collapsed to the ground. Mother lunged at me and seized my throat. "You vile creature. You've been plotting to kill your sister from the very beginning." The elders frowned disapprovingly. "Enough. No matter how disgraceful Ivy is, she's still the chieftain's bloodline. When Vesper is consumed by Vespera, our clan will still need a priestess. Ivy's mastery of the ancient rites makes her the perfect candidate." Trembling, Vesper struggled to her feet, bloodied yet still trying to flee. The elders had her pinned down. Mother shrieked and lunged forward. "How dare you treat the chosen one like this? Have you lost your minds?" I strode up to Vesper and proclaimed, "Unlike a coward like me who clings to life, you've always put our people first. Surely you're willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for the tribe." With tears in her eyes, she scanned the crowd and pleaded, "Will you just stand by and watch me die?" The clansmen averted their gazes. These people had always taken pleasure in judging others from their moral high ground. Yet at their core, they were utterly self-serving, for they remain indifferent as long as their own interests aren't affected. The elders exchanged glances. "Given Vesper's youth, we'll grant her some time. The sacrifice can wait until she's ready." Vesper struggled in terror as her mother sobbed comforting words. "We'll find a way. There's always a way." Once again, I was left behind, but this time was different. It was Vesper who got effectively grounded by the clan elders. Meanwhile, I'd roam the clan grounds, occasionally plucking rare herbs to feed my little beast. Life was peaceful and carefree, but lately, tribesmen keep disappearing after venturing out. The little creature often zones out, instinctively gazing toward Vesper's direction. I couldn't help but fall into deep thought, until one fateful night, I awoke to find someone clamping a hand over my mouth and nose. When I came to again, I was already in the Shanghai clan's dungeon. The ground nearby was littered with gory remains, the air thick with the metallic stench of blood. Vesper has been walking with a limp ever since losing his arm. Mother frowned slightly. "Ivy, how can you still smile when death is at your doorstep?" as she sharpened the boning knife. She revealed the truth she'd concealed for years. It turned out she'd had a sweetheart before being forced by her family to marry my father. She harbored intense hatred toward both me and my father, even going as far as rekindling an affair with her old flame when I was 1, secretly giving birth to Vesper. The year I turned 5, after my father's death, she unexpectedly came into possession of his ancient techniques. She leafed through it and tore out a particular page. That page contained detailed instructions on bone marrow transplantation. Mother looked down at me with contempt. Just like your ill-fated father, you inherited the sacred spiritual marrow unique to the Shanghai bloodline. That's why you could form a pact with divine beasts. When I tied you up like this before, you kept struggling, but the moment you realized it was me holding the knife, you froze completely, Mother sneered. Made it easier for me to extract every single one of your bones and transplant them into Vesper, though I never expected that when I discarded Vesper's bones with your flesh, you actually survived thanks to the regenerative power in your bloodline, and walked back here 3 months later, when my own mother had publicly condemned me to death before the clan. My miraculous reappearance was a slap in her face. She could no longer secretly execute me behind the elders' backs. That's how I survived. Mother raised the boning knife, but gradually I noticed Vesper's wounds would transfer to you, and she became revered by the clan just like your father. I understand now your fate and Vesper's have been completely swapped. Lived through 2 lifetimes. In my past life, I died with injustice. In this life, I'm again missing that torn page of ancient scripture. The truth suddenly dawned on me, and I laughed for tears. So this is how it was. Turns out when I was 5. My own mother tried to kill me to transfer the divine maiden's fate to her beloved younger daughter. All my suffering and torment were never mine to bear, just paving the way for another's glory. The chains clanked loudly. The chained divine beast Vespera thrashed with ravenous desperation. Vesper grew impatient. Mother, just kill her already. I don't want to be Vespera's meal. Don't worry, Vesper. Do you really think I'd sacrifice you to Vespera? Mother soothed her gently. Since Ivy always cared for her kin, and the spirit marrow within you was hers to begin with, offering it along with her flesh to Vespera would be most fitting, but this time, she must be cut to ribbons, leave no chance of survival. With that, the boning knife gleamed coldly as it swung down. At the critical moment, a small beast charged out from the corner. It sank its teeth into Mother's ankle and flung her several meters away. Amid Vesper's terrified screams, the creature gathered itself and lunged again, yet the attack wasn't aimed at her. It charged straight for the mythical beast Vespera by her side. Chained and outmatched, Vespera gradually lost ground in the brutal struggle. With a final savage bite, its throat was torn open. The piercing shriek cut abruptly silent. Darkness swallowed the dungeon, broken only by the ghastly crunch of bones being gnawed. The little beast licked its lips greedily. Crawling toward Vesper, who was writhing in pain from the shared senses with Vespera, I chuckled softly and stopped it. This one's not for eating. Hearing this, the creature reluctantly retreated to my side and gnawed through the ropes binding me. Mother trembled in fear. What manner of beast can bite through the hide of a divine creature like Vespera? Divine beast? No, that can't be. Vespera's eyes burned crimson. Ivy's spiritual essence is with me. There's no way another divine beast could be conceived. Any attempt to hatch it would only bring catastrophic backlash. I nodded slowly. Pity you were too greedy. You wanted to spare your beloved Vesper from suffering, so you kept me alive to endure it all in her place. Her eyes brimmed with bitter regret. Ivy, I swear you'll pay for this. Without a word, I slapped her across the face, then raised my scepter and struck her back with full force. Silence, you insignificant wretch. How dare you address me by name? Vesper gritted her teeth. Address me. Don't get cocky, Ivy. Even if you kill me, you're just the divine maiden of the Shanghai clan. What gives you the right to call yourself the supreme? Seems I haven't made myself clear enough. I bared my teeth in a grin. The Shanghai people possess feeble divine power. They can only survive by forming pacts with the mythical beasts of Mount Kwaiji, and only those of the chieftain's bloodline can contract with divine beasts. That's why they've remained isolated in their remote corner all these years, but that's only because no one ever considered contracting a Taotai. This so-called ancient beast is insatiably gluttonous, capable of devouring all things. Legend says it can even absorb the abilities of other mythical creatures through consumption. Yet during its juvenile stage, it's remarkably weak, utterly defenseless. Naturally, no one would exhaust their resources to raise it, let alone hunt mythical beasts for it on Mount Kwaiji. But I'm different, I smiled, madness gleaming in my eyes. The gluttonous beast obliged, spewing forth gushing springs once more. Vesper trembled in realization. You made it. Devour Ignis. I leaned closer. Not just Ignis. Now there's Vespera too, and at the rate it's consuming you, you should be dead already. No afterlife. No reincarnation, just gone from this world forever, leave no loose ends. After all, I can be reborn. What if she can too? Vesper's heart turned to ashes as her body slowly faded into nothingness. Even in death, she cursed me to a miserable end. Mother watched me approach step by step, her face twisted in terror. How dare you? I'm your own mother. My true parents died long ago. I shook my head and led her out of the dungeon, declaring her crimes to all. When the clan learned the couple had been butchering their own people to feed Vespera, outrage erupted. All demanded Vespera's execution, but I told them, Vespera is dead. The tribes exchanged glances before unanimously declaring me their divine maiden. Spreading my arms, I commanded, then offer everything you have to your divine maiden. As I gazed upon the mountain of jagged bones and the monstrous beasts standing ready on Mount Kwaiji, a slow smile bloomed across my face. 5, 6, 7, 8. How could she possibly have a divine beast? I calmly looked at them and said, exactly, that's why it's not a divine beast, but a ravenous beast, the Taotai, a gluttonous monster from Chinese legend. The little creature let out a piercing roar in perfect timing. I strolled up to the pair and casually leafed through the ancient tome. Mother looked ready to tear me apart. You wretched little whore, I should have strangled you the moment you came back. I laughed. 3 days later, I rode the now colossal Taotai up Mount Kwaiji. From that moment, the Shanghai tribe ceased to exist. Next story, what should you do if the zombie virus breaks out halfway through the C24 exam? Thanks for the invitation. If I had to answer, I'd say I want to die. On the run, I met the guy I've had a crush on for a long time. We struggled to survive, moving from the library, supermarket, courier station, to the clock tower, just as we were about to escape from the campus. I was betrayed by a friend. 1. How unlucky can a contemporary college student be? The TM4 exam was postponed, and the teacher qualification exam was also postponed. After 3 years of college, I haven't got any certificates except for the Mandarin Proficiency Certificate. I decided to take the C24 exam, even though this certificate is of no use to me, but as an English major. If I can't even pass the C24, I might as well set up a stall and sell fried noodles and rice noodles. I signed up with great determination, with the ambition of scoring over 600, and carefully prepared for a month. Finally, on the day of the exam, looking at the test paper, I smiled. Of course, this smile didn't last long. I was stunned to see that the person who was my good classmate one moment turned into a figure like Hannibal the next, tilting his head and rushing towards the invigilator with a gaping, blood-filled mouth. I clutched the test paper, and the classmates around me immediately fell into chaos. The moment the person who rushed into the classroom bit off the invigilator's neck, and blood splattered everywhere, I decisively threw the test paper aside and took off running. Damn it, can't you let me hand in the paper first? What are you standing there for? Run. I noticed that the boy in the first row was still standing there, stunned, as if he was scared silly. I grabbed his arm and pushed him outside. The classroom was crowded, filled with screams and cries for help. What the hell is this? The boy I was holding said in disbelief. Zombies. Do you know what zombies are? I shouted. I haven't finished the questions yet. He was on the verge of collapse. However, I was even more. I finished the questions, but I haven't handed in the paper yet. The boy in front turned around and shouted at us, for God's sake, what are you still talking about at a time like this? The crowd surged. It was finally possible to squeeze out of the classroom, and I realized that the situation outside was not optimistic. The corridor was in chaos, covered in blood, students were running for their lives everywhere, and there were people whose arms or legs had been bitten off by zombies, wailing in despair. It was like a living hell. What should we do? Michael gripped my arm tightly and said in a trembling voice. My mind was racing. Let's go to the library. I gritted my teeth and said. The library is the closest place to the teaching building. There is food and water in the library, which is currently the safest place. We ran all the way towards the library. On the way, I saw with my own eyes a girl who was screaming and running for her life while clutching her arm one moment, but the next moment, her face turned pale and she pounced fiercely on an unsuspecting boy. I felt a chill down my spine and quickened my pace even more, I swear. I've never run this fast in the 800-meter race. Finally, avoiding the people and zombies along the way, we ran into a reading room on the first floor of the library. Just as we were about to close the door, I saw a boy running towards us from a distance, with a zombie hot on his heels. I quickly opened the door a crack and waved at him. He noticed and rushed towards me, leaving the zombie far behind. He then sidestepped into the room. I quickly closed the door. After a while, I slumped to the ground in relief. When I turned around, my crush Simon and my friend Alice were looking at me in surprise, too. My crush's name is Simon. With his handsome appearance and excellent grades, he has won the hearts of many girls. Of course, I'm one of them. At this moment, even though I was in the same room as him, I didn't have any romantic thoughts. We briefly described the situation outside, and the group of us stayed in the reading room, feeling uneasy. There's no network either. Alice looked at her phone and said worriedly. My heart sank. Without the network, we were like a desert island in the ocean, completely cut off from the outside world. What should we do now? Michael was on the verge of a breakdown. No one answered him. There's still electricity and water, which means we haven't been completely overrun yet. After a long time, Simon said in a low voice, since we can't get in touch with the outside world, the only thing we can do now is to protect ourselves and wait for rescue. I opened a slit in the curtain and looked at the tragic scene outside. I couldn't bear to look away. The reading room was large, with 2 vending machines at the front and back, and there was enough food and snacks for the time being. We were thinking about our next move when a series of footsteps broke the silence. Through the window glass, a group of people were running towards the library in a panic, with a large wave of zombies following behind. For a moment, everyone fell silent. Now, a question was before us: should we save them, or not? I looked out the window. One by one, the people who fell behind in the group were pounced on and bitten. Are you serious? You can't be thinking of opening the door, Sebastian said in surprise when he saw that we were silent. There's not much food to begin with, if we let them in. Do you want to go out and let the zombies bite you? Besides... His tone changed. How can you be sure that the people we let in haven't been infected? I was silent. Indeed, in this situation, self-preservation was the best choice. But, let them in, Simon said. There was a fierce look in Sebastian's eyes. I don't agree. I stood up and walked straight to the door. If we just stand by and do nothing, how are we any different from those zombies outside? He rushed over and grabbed my wrist. If you want to be a good Samaritan, don't drag my life into it. I looked at him coldly. Don't forget who opened the door for you just now. He stared into my eyes. After a moment, he reluctantly let go of my hand and was pulled aside by Simon. I took a deep breath and picked up a wrench from the corner. Alice opened the door of the reading room and waved to the group of people. The leading boy noticed and immediately ran towards us. When the last person ran in, a wave of zombies had also arrived. Simon dragged a chair and neatly knocked down a zombie. I held the wrench tightly in my hand, looking at the approaching ferocious faces. I closed my eyes and swung it forward with all my strength. The zombie in front of me fell backward heavily after the blow. I was about to retreat into the room when, out of the corner of my eye, another zombie suddenly pounced on me. I was startled. Before I could react, a knife suddenly pierced through the zombie's head. I took the opportunity to retreat into the room and slammed the door shut. Gasping sounds filled the reading room. Thanks, man. Do you have any food? Give me some. A guy with yellow hair approached Sebastian and tried to get friendly. Sebastian was wiping the blood splattered on his knife with a piece of cloth and stared at him unkindly. There's no food. Get away from me. The guy with yellow hair shuffled away awkwardly. Is there any food? I'm starving. Is there any water? My throat is parched. The group of people chattered. Simon and I exchanged a look. After a moment of silence, we distributed some food and water to them. Why is there so little? You guys are so stingy, the guy with yellow hair complained. There's not much food left. If you don't want to starve to death, you'd better ration it. I pressed the wrench against the table and looked at him coldly. The guy with yellow hair averted his gaze and mumbled something. The reading room was large and divided into 2 parts by a wall, with an arched door on each side of the wall connecting the 2 areas. Our 2 groups occupied separate spaces and didn't interfere with each other. The food is running out, I said in a low voice. The original food was probably enough for the 5 of us to eat for 2 weeks, but with so many more people, it would only last about 5 days. This isn't a long-term solution. When the food runs out, we'll have to go to other classrooms to find food, Simon said. But we can't be sure that there's no one in other classrooms. There are vending machines in the hall, but there are also a lot of zombies, Alice said worriedly, holding a stick that I had removed from the ladder. And those people may not cooperate, I frowned. Who asked you to meddle and let them in? Sebastian sneered. If it were you outside, I would have let you in too, I snorted. He fell silent. So, we either cooperate with them, go to other classrooms to find food, and continue to wait for rescue in the library, or we find another way out, Simon summarized. Michael swallowed hard. A way out? You can't mean going outside. My God, what's the difference between that and suicide? I stood up. The food will run out sooner or later. Do you want to starve to death or be bitten to death by zombies, late at night? We pushed the tables together and laid down a layer of curtains on the tables to sleep on. Fortunately, it was already summer, so it wasn't cold sleeping like this. Alice and I slept on one side, and the 3 of them slept on the other side. Just as I was half asleep, I suddenly heard very faint footsteps. It seemed that someone was groping their way towards me. I immediately became alert. Alice beside me pulled me closer to her. I took the opportunity to roll backward and a pair of hands landed right where I had been sleeping. I narrowed my eyes, picked up the stick under the pillow, and swung it forward. Hiss! A cry of pain sounded in the silent and dark room. Then, there was movement on Simon's side. What's going on? Have the zombies come in? I heard Michael's nervous voice. With a click, the light was turned on, and the classroom was suddenly bright. I took a closer look. The guy with yellow hair was standing there, grimacing while clutching his arm. "What do you think you're doing?" I just got up to go to the toilet, he stammered. "Really? Then what were you groping around for just now?" I asked coldly. Hearing this, Simon also looked at him unkindly. "Pervert," Sebastian muttered. Just as the guy with yellow hair was about to say something sheepishly, a loud banging on the door suddenly came. I suddenly realized something. The light. It was the light that attracted the zombies. "Turn off the light," I whispered to Michael. Michael trembled as he turned off the light, and the room was plunged into darkness again. This night was destined to be a sleepless one. The next day, we all had obvious dark circles under our eyes. The guy with yellow hair had one hand hanging by his side. When he saw us, he avoided our gaze and his eyes flickered. Originally, I didn't really want to dwell on this matter, until someone slipped me a note. It was from a thin and unassuming boy from the group with the yellow-haired guy. He secretly slipped it to me when the others weren't paying attention. "They plan to steal the food when you're all asleep." I passed the note around for them to read. "Damn it, these people are courting death." Sebastian clenched his fists. "We can't just sit here and wait for death," Simon said slowly. "We don't know when the rescue will arrive. We need to find supplies that can last at least 2 months. The canteen has the most food in the school." "But the canteen closest to the library is still far away," Alice said softly. "No, there's another place with abundant supplies." Simon and I exchanged a look and said in unison, "The supermarket." "There is a supermarket not far behind the library. It only takes 3 minutes to get there through a grove of trees. Then it's settled. The supermarket," we decided. 3. The next day, we told the guy with yellow hair that we would leave with some supplies, while he and his group would stay in the reading room. When he saw that we were planning to leave, a flash of joy crossed the guy with yellow hair's eyes, but when he heard that we were going to take some food with us, his face immediately darkened. "Don't go too far, we were here first, so the supplies should be partly ours," Michael shouted. Seeing that the guy with yellow hair still wasn't willing, I quickly walked to the door and put my hand on the doorknob. "If you're so eager to see us die, then let's all die together," I threatened. The guy with yellow hair's eyes lingered on the doorknob for a while, and finally, he gave in. The windows of the reading room faced the side of the library. We played songs on loop on our phones at the maximum volume and threw the phones out of the window. While the zombies were attracted by the music, we slipped out through the main entrance. Before leaving, I looked at the boy who had passed me the note. He just shook his head at me. "Well, everyone has their own choices." "Ready? Remember to close the windows tightly," I called out to Sebastian by the window. "Good luck comes wishing you good luck." A burst of singing suddenly rang out in the silent environment. Immediately, a large wave of footsteps rushed towards us. When the sounds at the door gradually faded away, I opened the door a crack and peeked outside. "Quick!" I quickly opened the door and dashed towards the library's main entrance. Most of the zombies had been attracted by the music. There wasn't a single soul in the library, only the rapid footsteps of the few of us. We successfully ran out of the library and dashed towards the supermarket. Soon, the grove of trees was right in front of us. "Damn it," Sebastian cursed under his breath. I looked up and saw at least 20 zombies wandering in the grove. Sensing the commotion, they were slowly walking towards us. Without time to think too much, I gritted my teeth and whispered to them, "You guys keep running." Then, to their shocked expressions, I shouted at the top of my lungs, "Over here, I'm here." As I shouted, I ran in the opposite direction. My voice alerted the group of zombies, and one by one, they charged towards me. I really have to be grateful that after turning into zombies, their speed has slowed down a lot. Otherwise, with my barely passing the physical fitness test speed, I would have been swallowed up by the zombie horde in no time. I was running for my life when suddenly someone grabbed my hand. I was scared out of my wits. Thinking it was a zombie, I instinctively swung my wrench, but then I saw that it was Simon, who was pulling me in another direction. "It's me, this way," he shouted at me. I followed his gaze. The courier station. Right behind the library was the courier station. It was very close to the library, and there was a good chance that the zombies there had been attracted by the music. Since there was no other way out, we dashed towards the courier station. Several times, I could feel the stench of decay right next to me. I desperately followed Simon's footsteps, and our hands were tightly clasped, as if a steady stream of courage was flowing into my body through our joined hands. Closer, even closer. Finally, the moment we stepped into the courier station, I turned around and slammed the door shut, bang, just in time to trap half of the zombie that was chasing us. Simon picked up a wooden plank by the door and hit the zombie. I took the opportunity to loosen my hold slightly, bang. The moment the zombie was pushed out, I quickly closed the door. Violent pounding sounds came from behind the door. At this moment, I was extremely grateful that after a major theft incident, the school had reinforced the doors and windows of all courier stations. I began to let go of the new clothes and cosmetics that had been stolen during that theft. Thankful, when the knocking sounds behind us gradually weakened, I finally let out a sigh of relief, but before I could fully relax, Simon suddenly tugged at my clothes. I looked up in confusion and saw 3 zombies standing silently at the end of the long row of courier lockers. Damn it, I almost cursed it out loud. Was I really that unlucky? My nerves tensed up, and I tightened my grip on the wrench. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I counted silently in my mind. When I reached the last number, the figures at the end suddenly charged towards me. Simon and I also rushed forward. I aimed for the zombie on the far right. When its face was right in front of me, I suddenly bent down, nimbly dodged behind it, and swung the wrench at its head. With a splat, something splashed onto my hand, and the wrench slipped to the ground, just as I was about to pick it up. Another zombie was already in front of me, its stinking, gaping mouth was right in front of me, with the courier locker behind me. There was nowhere to run. Suddenly, a pair of hands locked around the zombie's shoulders and neck from behind, and the 2 of them fell to the ground together. Quick, Simon's veins popped out on his neck, and his face turned red. I took the opportunity to pick up the wrench. Move your head. Bang, bang, bang. I slammed the wrench into the zombie's head again and again until blood was gushing out and brains were splattering. Only then did I slowly stop. For a moment, it was dead silent in the courier station. When the zombie showed no more signs of movement, I collapsed to the ground, completely drained of strength. Simon pushed the zombie off him. There was blood and brains splattered on him, and he no longer looked as clean as before. The same went for me. But I no longer had the energy to care about that. After the intense chase and life and death battle, the string in my mind finally began to relax. Good job. Simon walked over and patted me on the shoulder. You too, I replied weakly. After calming down, we quickly cleaned ourselves up. What do we do now? I asked, munching on the potato chips I'd taken from an open courier box. There were a lot of open courier boxes around me. After all, no girl can resist the temptation of parcels. I wonder if they made it to the supermarket safely, Simon said. Returning to the gentle demeanor I first saw in him, my heart started pounding again. Trying to act calm, I averted my gaze and suddenly saw something. Wait, look, I said surprisingly. Looking outside, Alice was standing by the window on the 2nd floor of the supermarket not far away, waving frantically at me. When she saw that I'd noticed her, she looked even more excited. I pointed at the zombies wandering outside and shook my head. With zombies outside, there was no way we could get over there. She seemed to be discussing something with Sebastian beside her. After a while, she reappeared, holding a phone. She pointed at the phone, then at Sebastian, and made some gestures towards me. It took me a while to figure out what she was trying to say. She means that Sebastian will play music on the phone and go out to lure the zombies away. And then we can go in through the front door, I explained to Simon. He thought for a moment and nodded. I think it's feasible. I looked at Sebastian across the way, whose expression was unreadable. I didn't think he was the type to risk his life for others, but at this moment, there was no other choice. As I was packing up, I saw some medicated oil that had been taken out from the pile of parcels on the table and stuffed it into my bag. I gave Alice a thumbs up. After a while, a rope was lowered from the window on the 2nd floor of the supermarket. Sebastian nimbly slid down the rope, and then the ear-piercing music started playing again. A few seconds later, the rumbling sound of footsteps came. Looking at the dense horde of zombies outside, my heart was in my throat. Are you ready? I looked at Simon. He was taken aback for a moment, then a faint smile played on his lips. Yes, I do. I tried my best to hide the smile that was threatening to spread across my face. When Sebastian had lured the zombie horde far away and the music gradually faded away, Simon and I dashed outside. We ran through the grove of trees, and everything went smoothly. I couldn't help but feel a surge of joy, but the moment we turned the corner and reached the entrance of the supermarket, my face froze. We ran straight into a group of zombies that had also turned the corner and reached the entrance. Damn it. There were still some zombies that hadn't been lured away by the music. I was in a complete panic, but since we'd come this far, I had no choice but to face it head on. 5. With a swing of my wrench, I knocked the head off one zombie. Turning around, I saw that Simon had also taken down a zombie. I looked towards the corner, and my pupils suddenly shrank. Damn it, why are there so many more? Don't they like music? I wailed, deftly dodging the zombies' attacks. As the supermarket entrance got closer and closer, Alice stood behind the door, looking at me anxiously. I ran even harder. I turned back to pull Simon, but then I saw a zombie behind him opening its mouth to bite his neck. In an instant, my mind went blank. I instinctively stepped forward, pushed his head down, and then kicked out with all my strength. The zombie behind him was sent flying to the ground. I took the opportunity to pull him towards the door. Just as we were about to reach the door, Alice opened it, and quickly closed it again after we stepped inside. Thud. I looked back and saw more and more zombies gathering at the door, crashing into the glass door frantically. I even wondered if the door would shatter in the next second. Michael took a piece of cloth and quickly covered the glass door. Slowly, the crashing sounds outside weakened. If they can't see us, they won't go crazy like this, Michael said, wiping the sweat from his forehead and relaxing. Suddenly, I realized something was wrong. Sebastian, he was still outside. Did you have a plan for how Sebastian would get in? I asked urgently. Alice's voice trembled as she said, We originally planned for him to come in through the front or back door. My heart sank. No, the front door was already blocked by zombies, since there were still so many zombies that hadn't been lured away by the music. There must be zombies at the back door too. My face turned pale instantly, and I dashed towards the second floor. I rushed to the window and took a closer look. Sebastian's running figure came into view. Seemingly seeing the zombies at the entrance, he suddenly stopped in his tracks, looking at a loss. Over here, come here. I grabbed the rope by the window and shouted at the top of my lungs. Hearing my voice, he glanced at me from a distance, then dashed towards me without hesitation. Thanks to his long legs, he managed to put some distance between himself and the chasing zombies, just like before. Then, with a leap, he grabbed the rope. Fortunately, Simon, Michael, and I were all holding onto the rope, or I would have been pulled down by his momentum. The veins on my hands stood out as I pulled back with all my might. Finally, his head appeared outside the window. I grabbed his hand, with one hand holding mine and the other supporting himself on the windowsill. He nimbly stepped inside and landed on the ground. I collapsed to the ground, completely exhausted. I could even taste the metallic tang of blood in my throat. This was too much, I thought. I'd be exhausted to death before the zombies even got a chance to eat me. There were far more supplies in the supermarket than we'd expected, enough to last us half a year. We rummaged through the supermarket for useful items. Look outside. Simon patted me on the shoulder. To be honest, I was now afraid of him touching me, always worried that I'd turn around and see a zombie. I looked out the window. In the distance, a dark figure flew across the sky. I squinted and looked for a long time. It's a plane, I said surprisingly. A plane. Are we saved? Michael exclaimed, rushing to the window. It looks like it's dropping something, I observed after watching for a while. The plane slowly got closer. Michael waved his hands frantically. Over here, we're here. It seemed that the plane had seen us. It flew towards us, circled above our roof for a while, dropped a package, and then flew away. Why did it leave? Has the country given up on us too? Michael said desperately, collapsing to the ground. Just as I was about to say something, Alice walked over with something in her hand. It was a walkie-talkie radio. We found a charging cable and plugged it in. Simon turned on the recording function on his phone, and we listened to the intermittent messages coming from the radio. Currently, an unknown virus has broken out. The infected are extremely aggressive. Please, citizens, protect yourselves and be careful not to get bitten. The country is organizing aerial rescue. Please, citizens, wait at high places or stockpile supplies and stay in safe locations. Every week, supplies will be airdropped. Please pay attention to your safety. Please believe we will not give up on anyone. We will not give up on anyone. 6. Late at night, we huddled together in the dark room. The country hasn't given up on us, I said, my eyes shining brightly in the darkness, a fire burning in my heart. The country has started the rescue. All we need to do now is wait, or go to a high place to seek aerial rescue. Of course, the second option was too difficult and was automatically ruled out by me. That's great. I finally feel a bit more at ease, Michael murmured. I wonder how my mom and the others are doing. We fell silent. This topic was too heavy, and we tried our best to avoid mentioning it along the way. Suddenly, I felt that the person beside me was breathing erratically. Alice, what's wrong with you? I gently touched her. It's okay. I'm just, she replied in a trembling voice. Before she could finish, I picked up my phone and turned on the flashlight towards her. Don't lie to me. What on earth is wrong with you? In the dark. My voice was sharp and panicky. Could it be that you were? My heart was beating extremely fast, and I even felt a little dizzy. Sebastian made some noise on the opposite side, but I didn't pay attention. No, it's not, she replied softly. I just fell down, under the flashlight. The wound on her knee was a bloody mess, almost showing the bone. I was filled with self-blame and carefully treated her wound. Fortunately, there were some simple emergency medicines in the supermarket. But a few days later, I found that the wound didn't get better. In summer, bacteria are prone to breed, and the wound on her knee became more and more serious, with pus oozing out. The medicine in the supermarket didn't work at all. She has a fever. I'm afraid she's infected. She needs to take antibiotics, Simon said in a low voice. However, the school infirmary was near the school gate, which was extremely far from the supermarket. It was simply impossible for us to go there and bring back the medicine. Moreover, none of the 5 of us were medical students, and we had no idea what medicine to use. I looked at Alice's slightly flushed face due to the fever and tightly held her hand. After a while, I finally made up my mind. I planned to take Alice to the bell tower and wait for the aerial rescue. When we gathered as usual at night, I said calmly, "The highest place in the school was the bell tower." The top of the bell tower was a large flat ground, which was the best location for the aerial rescue. "What? Are you crazy?" Michael said in disbelief. "Alice's wound is infected. She won't be able to hold on like this," I said in a low voice, looking at Alice's sleeping face beside me. "Besides, haven't you noticed that the glass of the supermarket won't hold up for long?" Everyone fell silent. The door of the supermarket hadn't been reinforced, and there were already slight cracks on it, but maybe it can hold on for a while. Michael's voice gradually faded. Indeed, there were abundant supplies here, and it was like a paradise, giving us a temporarily comfortable life, but this wasn't a real paradise after all. In the end, they all decided to go to the bell tower with me. "We'll die anyway when the door breaks, instead of being trapped like turtles in a jar by the zombies. We might as well take a desperate gamble," Sebastian said indifferently. Simon looked at me, and in his eyes was the tenderness and determination that I was familiar with. "We will survive." 7. The last time the plane appeared was at 6 o'clock in the morning. We set out at 5 o'clock in the morning 7 days later. I sprayed the medicated oil that I had taken from the courier station on my body. As Sebastian said, "This could cover up the smell of meat on us. And maybe we could get away with it." We found a megaphone in the supermarket and turned the volume to the maximum. We tied the megaphone together with Alice's phone, ready to attract the zombies to the front of the supermarket, and we would go to the bell tower through the back door. As for the zombies that managed to escape our plan on the way, we could only leave it to fate. At 5 o'clock in the morning, there was already a faint light outside. After everything was ready, I took a deep breath. "Just an hour, good luck to us." After adjusting the phone, Simon threw it out with a piece of foam wrapped around it. The ear-piercing singing instantly broke the tranquility of the morning, and then came the violent footsteps like an earthquake. After the zombies in our sight disappeared, Sebastian was the first to climb down the rope, followed by Michael, Alice, me, and then Simon. After we all landed safely, Simon and I supported Alice and dashed towards the bell tower. "Chi-Chi. If we encounter danger, leave me behind. I can buy you some time." Alice's panting voice rang in my ear. My heart was pounding violently in my chest. "No, that's impossible." I squeezed out the words through my teeth. "Wait." In front, Sebastian suddenly made a gesture to stop. We suddenly stopped in our tracks. In the dim night, there were more than a dozen figures standing in front of us. My throat tightened. The pungent smell of medicated oil lingered on us. I held Alice's hand and slowly, gently moved forward step by step. Those black figures still stood where they were and didn't react. I made a gesture towards them. We slowly approached the bell tower in the dark. Several times, I even smelled the strong stench of decay coming from them. I noticed that Michael's body was shaking violently. I gently touched his hand, and he looked at me. I gave him a reassuring look. Gradually, we quickened our pace and left those hunters behind. In the morning light, the blurred outline of the bell tower came into view. The door was open, and it was pitch black inside, as if there were unknown dangers lurking. We exchanged a look, slowed down our pace, and slowly walked up the steps. In the hall, there were several black figures scattered around. We groped our way towards the elevator. The smell of medicated oil dissipated a bit and wasn't as strong as before. We slowly moved to the elevator entrance and gently pressed the button to go upstairs. The rooftop was on the 7th floor, and the elevator could only reach the 5th floor. We had to climb the remaining 2 floors by ourselves. We waited anxiously for the elevator door to open. Click. I don't know what Michael stepped on, and a slight sound came. My body froze. Out of the corner of my eye, several zombies seemed to sense something and slowly turned around and walked towards us. "Hurry up, hurry up," I frantically urged in my heart and clenched the wrench in my hand. Finally, when the zombies were only 2 meters away from us, the elevator door opened. The tension in my eyes hadn't dissipated, but my pupils suddenly shrank. Inside the elevator, a figure with blood on its body was standing with its back to us. Michael looked even more panicked. Sebastian was the first to step into the elevator. His movements were as light as a cat, and he didn't make a sound. He turned around and signaled to us. I gritted my teeth and walked in lightly. The elevator door slowly closed, and the air inside was as suffocating as if it had solidified. I frantically suppressed my breathing, and big beads of sweat were dropping from my forehead. As if sensing something, the zombie with its back to us suddenly moved and seemed to turn around stiffly. I glanced at Sebastian, who was the closest to the zombie, and he nodded at me. I coughed softly under Michael's nervous gaze. The zombie suddenly turned its head and looked at me. Just then, Sebastian behind the zombie suddenly took action. He stabbed the zombie in the back of the head with a knife at lightning speed. With a splat sound, I caught the falling body and gently leaned it against the corner of the elevator. We finally let out a sigh of relief, but as the number on the electronic screen slowly jumped to 5, our hearts were raised again. What would the scene be like outside? Would there be hordes of zombies greeting us? Ding! The elevator door slowly opened. Fortunately, there was no one outside. Just as we turned the corner and walked towards the stairs, I thought of something. "Give me your phone," I said in a low voice to Simon. He paused, our eyes met, and at that moment, he seemed to understand my thoughts. He still handed me his phone. I held the phone, looked at the time on it, and finally made up my mind. Take care of my parents if possible. After saying this, I turned around and rushed in the other direction. It seemed that someone called me, but I couldn't hear it at all. My nerves seemed to reach the peak of tension at this moment. I turned a corner, and a zombie awesomely appeared in front of me. I dodged its fierce pounce, turned around, and hit it on the leg with the wrench. The zombie stumbled and fell to the ground. I seized the opportunity and stabbed it in the head. After dealing with the trouble, I continued to rush forward and finally found the room I was looking for. The door was open. Fortunately, there were no zombies inside. This was the broadcasting station. 8. I quickly opened the main switch in the power supply, plugged in the equipment, and connected the microphone. "Hello, can you hear me?" I said tentatively and heard the sound of the broadcast outside. Good. I didn't care how much trouble this action would cause. I quickly took out my phone, played the recording, and put it in front of the microphone with the volume turned to the maximum. I listened to the echoing voices outside. Currently, unknown virus. Please citizens protect yourselves. The country is organizing aerial rescue. Please citizens wait at high places or stockpile supplies and stay in safe locations. Every week, supplies will be airdropped. Safety. Please believe, we will not give up on anyone. We will not give up on anyone. During the days in the supermarket, I heard the sound of people falling from upstairs more than once. I don't know how many people lost their lives because of this disaster, and I don't know how many people committed suicide out of despair, but I know that in places I can't see, there are many people fighting as hard as we are. And there are also many people who have lost the courage to live. I want to plant a seed of hope in them. Students, we are not fighting alone. No matter how difficult the situation is, please hold on. The dawn will eventually come. The school broadcast could just help divert the attention of some zombies. I set the recording to play on a loop. After setting the time to turn it off, I planned to leave. When I turned around, I found Sebastian standing behind me, quietly watching me. "Damn, you scared the hell out of me. Why are you walking without making a sound?" My heart almost jumped out of my chest. He turned his head awkwardly. "Hurry up, the time is pressing." I grabbed his hand and rushed outside. On the way, I saw several zombies lying on the ground. Presumably, Sebastian had taken care of them on his way here. We successfully ran to the rooftop. After closing the rooftop door tightly, I immediately ran towards Simon and the others. "How is it?" Simon frowned anxiously. "Over there." I looked up at the sky, and an airplane appeared not far away against the rising sun. As if seeing our signal, the airplane gradually approached us. I was overjoyed, but suddenly realized something. Damn it, the roar of the airplane would attract the zombies. I suddenly turned around. "Quick, reinforce the door." But the rooftop was a flat ground, and there was nothing we could use to reinforce the door. I used the wrench that had been with me since the end of the world to block the door handle. Rumble. The roar of the airplane grew louder and louder. I could almost predict that in a few minutes, or maybe even less, countless zombies would approach us following the sound. Michael stomped his feet anxiously. "Quick, hurry up." Finally, the airplane landed on the rooftop, and the propeller stirred up a strong wind. The cabin door opened. Simon and I supported Alice and immediately rushed towards the airplane. Bang, bang, bang. The door on the rooftop came a violent crashing sound. As if it would tear the thin door apart in the next second, I quickened my pace and quickly ran towards the airplane. Simon was the first to get on the plane. He reached out and pulled Alice up. I supported Alice's legs from below and successfully sent her up. "Quick, come up," Simon shouted at me. The impact sound became more and more intense, and I even heard the sound of the wooden board cracking. I quickly grabbed the cabin board and climbed up. Sebastian supported my foot and pushed me up. But just as I was halfway up, the pilot uncle's anxious voice came from the front. "No, this airplane is for transporting supplies. It can't carry so many of you. At most, only 3 people can get on." My heart tightened, and my movements suddenly stopped. Only 3 people could get on. Simon's expression changed, and he quickly reacted. "I'll go down, you come up," he said, and came towards me. Alice also reached up to grab me. "Chi-Chi, come up quickly." Behind me, the impact sound still didn't stop, and a hole had been broken in the door. The bluish-black face of the zombie was vaguely visible. My heart was filled with torment. Countless thoughts flashed through my mind. In an instant, I made a decision. I pushed Simon hard and shook my head at him under his shocked gaze. "Take care of my parents if possible." After saying this, I turned around neatly. The strong wind blew my clothes. Just as I was about to jump down, I suddenly felt my ankle being pulled violently, with a bang sound. I fell heavily to the ground, and a sharp pain immediately came from my calf. The pain made my eyes go dark, and cold sweat broke out all over my body. "What are you doing? What the hell are you doing?" In a daze, I seemed to hear someone's furious roar. I struggled to get up. The first thing I saw wasn't Sebastian's angry face, but the zombies that finally broke through the rooftop door and rushed in. "Quick, get on the plane." I managed to shout at them, but my voice was quickly drowned out by the deafening footsteps. Sebastian's eyes were bloodshot, and his sharply contoured face was distorted with anger, looking extremely terrifying. I had never seen him so angry before. "Stop arguing, hurry up and get on the plane," I frantically shouted in my heart, but my throat was already dry and hoarse, and I couldn't say a word. Only 3 people can get on. I want to live." I heard Michael's trembling voice. "Yes, who doesn't want to live?" I wanted them to get on the plane quickly. Sebastian's eyes were wide open, and it seemed that flames were about to burst out of his eyes. Then, to my surprise, he grabbed Michael's collar, lifted him up with one hand, and then threw him backwards without hesitation. Michael crashed heavily into the surging mass of zombies, and in an instant, his figure disappeared from sight. I stared at Sebastian in disbelief. Behind him, a dense horde of zombies rushed towards him, but he didn't look back. He helped me up, his movements rough yet swift, and somehow managed not to cause any further damage to my wound. He bent down and carried me on his back, then lifted me high and pushed me towards the cabin door. "Quick, catch her," he roared at Simon, and I even suspected that he might spit out blood foam the next second. "Sebastian," I desperately wanted to stop him, but my voice was barely audible. I was completely exhausted, able only to lean weakly against his back. Simon's strong hand grabbed my arm. "I've got her." His voice lacked its usual elegance. The pilot up front kept issuing urgent cries for us to hurry. Sebastian and I were almost engulfed by the tide of zombies, yet he used his tall frame to push me upward with all his might, ignoring the bites and gnaws on his body. His warm body heat seeped through his clothes and into mine. Simon and Alice pulled together, finally dragging half of my body into the plane. My foot rested on Sebastian's back. He held my foot with both hands. I looked down. Half of his body was already submerged in the zombie horde, covered in blood, but he still looked up at me. As the sky grew lighter, his eyes were filled with only my figure. Finally, I was pulled onto the plane by Simon. The plane slowly took off, kicking up clouds of dust in a strong wind. I leaned against the cabin railing. That blood-soaked figure still stood firm, maintaining an upward posture. I could almost still see those bright eyes. The plane flew towards the horizon, getting farther and farther away, until that figure was completely swallowed by the surging tide and vanished from sight. It felt like water droplets landed on the back of my hand. When I looked up, I realized I was already in tears. In the distance, the golden sun slowly rose, illuminating the desolate land. The night receded, and the dawn was finally here. Epilogue. Sebastian had known her for a long time. The first time he saw her was during the club recruitment. She was with Alice, and they seemed to glow under the sun. Strangely, he couldn't tear his eyes away. The slight annoyance he felt at being dragged in by senior girls to serve as eye candy disappeared instantly. He even felt a hint of excitement. However, to his disappointment, she casually took the flyer handed by the senior and didn't give it a second look. It seemed she wasn't very interested in their club. Sebastian watched as she stopped in front of the calligraphy club where Simon was. He saw her chatting animatedly with Simon, as if there was no one else in her eyes. That initial disappointment quickly turned into a pang of discomfort. It was like a gentle sting from a bee, leaving a mark in his heart. Sebastian couldn't help but keep his eyes on her. Whenever she was around, his gaze would fixate on her, like a dragon coveting a precious treasure. His eyes held a longing that he himself wasn't fully aware of, yet he hesitated to approach, afraid that his presence might disrupt her life. Sebastian, who was always straightforward and hot-tempered, for the first time felt such confusion and distress. When the virus broke out, he followed her all the way to the library. taking out the zombies that tried to get close to her along the way. To his surprise, she waved at him, even though they were in the midst of a hellish situation. The moment he saw her, it felt like he was in a peaceful haven. He deliberately said harsh things, acting like a child, using the most clumsy ways to catch her attention. In fact, he didn't really care about rescuing others or opening the door, as long as she was safe. Nothing else mattered to him, or perhaps it wouldn't be so bad if they died together. There was a dark, secret hope in his heart. When the rescued guy with yellow hair looked at her with a disgusting gaze, anger welled up in Sebastian. No, it wasn't the right time yet. He struggled to suppress his anger. When they were about to leave, she called out loudly for him to hurry and close the windows. Sebastian responded while opening the window a crack and throwing his phone out. Then he turned and left without hesitation. On the way, he saw her running in the opposite direction alone to draw the zombies' attention. He instinctively wanted to chase after her, but someone was faster. Damn it, Sebastian thought expressionlessly. This guy was as annoying as ever, no matter the situation. To ensure she could reach the supermarket safely, Sebastian volunteered to go out and lure the zombies away. He secretly hoped that she would return safely while that pretty boy Simon would die out there. He felt a glimmer of anticipation. When he came back and saw the supermarket door surrounded by zombies, Sebastian was indeed stunned, but then, she stood upstairs and waved at him, shouting at him anxiously. In that moment, he couldn't make out what she was saying. His body moved before his mind, and he was already running towards her. As he climbed up the rope, he felt something brush against his foot. After getting into the supermarket, he secretly checked and found a bite mark. Although it was shallow, it was clearly a bite mark. With blood slowly seeping out, Sebastian calmly wiped it away with a tissue and then acted as if nothing had happened. Perhaps dying together with her was really a good choice, he thought again, but when the time came, he would definitely be the first to bite Simon, ruin that face that attracted so much attention. He felt his body gradually changing, but he still didn't say a word. He heard that she decided to go to the bell tower for rescue because of Alice. If I were the one injured, would you take such a risk for me? He wondered blankly, feeling a mix of grievance and reluctance. When she parted ways with the others at the bell tower, Sebastian, who had been keeping a close eye on her, immediately chased after her. This time, he was finally faster than that pretty boy. He heard what she said in the broadcasting room. The dawn will eventually come. In that moment, he suddenly understood her unwavering perseverance. He did his best to hold her feet from below, pushing her towards the plane. Only 3 people can get on. Oh, so only 3 people could board. He thought indifferently. It definitely wouldn't be him anyway. He might as well pull Simon down. He looked up and saw that Simon was at the far end, making it difficult to act. TSK, what a pity. Suddenly, she fell heavily to the ground, and blood started to seep from her calf. In an instant, it felt like his brain had been slammed with a heavy hammer. He roughly grabbed Michael. A violent impulse surged through his veins, making him want to tear the guy apart. This scum, how dare he? He desperately suppressed his bloodthirsty urge, ignoring Michael's cries, and threw him into the oncoming horde of zombies. What the hell is this? Countless zombies gnawed at his flesh. He could barely feel his lower body anymore. Not until more than half of her body was finally on the plane did he lift her foot up again. A zombie bit into his neck, tearing off a large piece of flesh. But he didn't care. How strange, he thought. He had never been someone who cared about others' lives. Initially, he wanted to board the plane with her, spend the remaining time together, and then hold her as they fell from the plane. Yet the moment he saw her fall, his instinct was to get her onto the plane, and to tear apart the person who pulled her down. So, I want her to live, he realized. The plane took off, and her figure gradually disappeared on the horizon. Sebastian still maintained that posture, looking up until the morning sun shone into his eyes. With a hint of regret, he closed his eyes and fell into eternal sleep in the darkness. So, I wanted you to live. Your survival is my reason to keep going.